Today I'm sharing with you 10 books that you can read this summer. These books, you probably won't find them on booktok. They're definitely not what's trending, but they're all still very great books. Some of them are bestsellers, but some of them are a little more indie. There's also a book in this stack for everyone. So there are books that are more romantic and whimsical, and then there are books that are more dark and thrilling, and there's some books that are kind of in between. Let's get started. There's no rhyme or reason for the order that I'm recommending them in. I'm kind of just going top to bottom. So if you want to skip ahead because you don't like the particular book I'm talking about in the moment, then go ahead and do that. So the first book I have that is great for the summer is Emma by Jane Austen. The movie Clueless is actually a modern readaptation of Emma, which was written in the late 1800s. This book is a very whimsical and romantic book. The premise of the storyline isn't mainly about romance. It's kind of like a coming-of-age novel. Emma is 22 years old and she spent her whole life basically being catered to and not having to deal with any real life problems. This book is basically about Emma having to experience normal, regular adult problems for the first time in her life. She also falls in love, which is great. If you are looking for a whimsical, lighthearted, funny book to read this summer, go for Emma. Totally on the other end of the spectrum is Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susann. Valley of the Dolls is a fast-paced, thrilling book. So Valley of the Dolls was written in the 1960s, and it's about three girls who end up in New York. They're all very young. They're just trying to get ahead in New York, and they end up in the entertainment industry, and things kind of hit the fan. The entertainment industry can get really dark, especially for young, inexperienced, naive girls. I'm so lucky because I got the highly sought after pink cover of this book that has the movie cover in it. If you've watched the movie, this book differs quite a bit from the movie. The movie was made to be not as, I guess, dark as the book was written to be. If you like reading darker narratives, then I 100% recommend this book to read this summer. The next one I have is called Mermaids. It's written by Dann. This book follows a young girl named Charlotte. Her and her younger sister live with their mom. They've never had a dad involved. Their mom has always been in and out of relationships, and every time that their mom experiences a breakup, she spontaneously moves them to another state. So I think that Charlotte has moved like 14 times in her life or something, and she's only 14 years old, which is crazy. This book isn't very long. It's a very quirky coming-of-age novel. There are some parts in it that are a little bit darker, but at the end of the day, it's a very quirky, happy, coming-of-age story. This book was also made into a movie, and it was such a great movie. One of my favorite movies. Coming up next, we have Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This book is another fast-paced read. It was written in the early 1900s. I think. It's about a young man who lives in New York, and he becomes friends with a very well-off bootlegger. I think this is like during the Prohibition era when alcohol was illegal. Gatsby is obsessed with his ex-girlfriend, and they go on a mission to like kind of get her back, and it ends up being just disastrous. So this is a very adventurous, fast-paced classic to read for the summer, and it's not very long either if you don't want to commit to something very long to read on the beach this summer. Next up, I have a book called Thursday's Child, and it's written by Sonya Hartnett. The first time I read this book, I think I was only 12, and I don't know what I was doing reading this book because I reread it as an adult, and it's so twisted. I was just like, damn, like, I didn't even understand. Takes place during the 1930s, during the Great Depression. Our main character is a girl named Harper. So she lives with her family, obviously. She's only 12 years old. She has a younger brother named Tin, and Tin gets into like some type of an accident when he's younger, and he totally withdraws from everything and everyone, and then he starts digging holes. Through the long years of the Great Depression, Harper Flute and her family struggle to survive in a hot and impoverished land. As life on the surface grows harsher, her little brother Tin takes to digging, escaping ever deeper into a subterranean world of darkness and troubling secrets. Can Harper, who loves Tin, learn to let her wild brother go? It's so sad. It's such a sad book. Oh my gosh. Now that I'm reading the synopsis again, it's just so sad. Happy, like it's not too bad of an ending in case you're worried about reading something that's overly depressing. The whole entire landscape imagery in this book is just like hot desert kind of land feeling, so just like feels kind of summery in a sense. Dark summer thriller to read. Alright. My next book that I have is The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and you've probably heard of this, or at least you've probably heard of the movie. It's such a wholesome read, and it actually comes in a series of 4 books, so if you can't get enough of this book after you're done reading it, you can read the other ones in the series. This book is basically about 4 best friends. They're in high school, and they're all separating for the summertime, and they're very sad because they've never been separated for the summertime, so they get a pair of jeans that fits them all perfectly, and they take turns wearing them, and then they'll send them to the next girl. She'll wear the pants and experience her summer in them for a week or something, and then she'll send them to the next one. Ultimately, if you're looking for a fun, summery book to read that's just made to read on the beach, this is definitely it. The next book I have is called Dirty Rush by Taylor Bell. It's kind of like an autobiography of this girl's real experience getting rushed into a sorority. It's honestly insane. If you have always wanted to have like a crazy college experience, but you've never got to have it, then read this book because this will be your crazy college experience. The craziest part about this book is that it's all true. This is how sorority girls are actually like toxic. Honestly, this book would make you feel better about whatever boring college experience you think you had. Alright, the next book I have, I actually just finished doing a reading vlog on this book by Oleander by Janet Fitch. It's actually a very empowering story of this girl and her experience navigating the foster care system. It takes place in LA, and during the entire narrative there's a lot of emphasis put on the heat and just like the whole entire landscape and ecosystem of Los Angeles. This book follows Astrid from the time that she's 12 years old until she's 18. It follows her years and her struggles through the American foster care system. It is pretty heavy, but it's not overly sad, so if you like reading books that pull at your heartstrings but they don't leave you devastated at the end, then this is a great book. Also, I want to mention that Astrid's character in the book, she has to go through a lot because of her beauty, which I think is a very interesting concept for a book, because normally in media, beauty is kind of like painted as like this advantage that gets you places. White Oleander shows like the other side of beauty, like the disadvantages that come with it. Next book I have is a bestseller called City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's another fast-paced, great piece of literary fiction. This book follows Vivian. It's the 1940s, and she gets expelled from her prestigious all-girls college, and her parents send her off to New York to live with her aunt, and she just kind of becomes entwined in this theater life in New York in the 1940s. And it's so much fun to read this. It really makes you feel like you're there when you're reading it. I loved this book when I read it. Next book I have is called Rogue by Mona Awad. So this is the same girl who wrote the book Bunny, which was actually super popular on TikTok and everywhere basically. Rogue also takes place in LA in the summertime, I think. Well, it's always hot in LA, so like there's a lot of emphasis put on the heat and the Hollywood atmosphere. This book follows a girl named Belle, and she goes to LA because that's where her mom lives, and her mom has gone missing after joining a skincare cult, which sounds ridiculous, but it's actually a little bit humorous. This book is definitely a dark thriller, just like Bunny was. I honestly would have given this book like 3 stars. There was some parts in it that I didn't really enjoy, but I know that a lot of people do really like this book, so that's why I'm adding it into the list of recommendations, because I'm going to be open-minded. I'm not going to only think about what I like. Alright, and for the last book I've got The Tommyknockers by Stephen King. It's a sci-fi horror. If you have never read Stephen King before, I wouldn't recommend reading this, but if you have read Stephen King and you like his stuff, then I recommend reading this. If you like alien stories, I recommend reading this. Classic summer alien story. In the book, there's a girl named Bobby, lives out in the middle of nowhere, and she spends a lot of time in the woods, and she ends up finding a UFO. It's like thousands or hundreds of years old. It's kind of like in the ground, and she has to dig it up. As she starts digging up this UFO, it totally changes her personality and her physicality. Whatever this technology is inside this UFO is messing with her and messing with the environment around her. Just a classic 1980s Stephen King book. I thought the concept of this book was so interesting. There is a part in the middle that kind of drags on, kind of like, why is that part in there? But ultimately, once you reach the last half of the book, it goes back to the really interesting stuff and the interesting characters. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video. Have a good night!